So our system runs on credits, and most AI systems that you have will run on that. Ours, a credit is how much. Think of it as how much energy or how much sort of compute you're using for that query. And so the more complicated it is, the more compute that you use, and they charge you for it. So when we sell them in buckets of, like, our kind of starter pack is like 30,000 a month. What I tend to sell is most people use about 100,000 a month, and that gives a company somewhere between 15 to 20 people access to these tools and to really use the heck out of it for a month, right? And then every month those 100,000, repeat. So, boom, I got my list of deliverables required by this contract. I got all my flow downs I need to do. And now, this is what's really interesting, is I've said, I gave it an ISO 9001 quality manual, but this customer requires AS 9100. So we catch that right away, right? Look for those kind of things so we can see if we grab it. That would be something that happens to my customers all the time, where their sales guys like, oh, we sold this job, we need aerospace. It's like, cool, like that's 6 months away. If for you guys to even have an audit to make that happen, it's not going to happen, right? And so if you don't catch that up front, we've got issues, right? This customer is asking for SPC data, we don't address it, right? And you can walk the whole way through that and use that as the quality engineer to see where do we need to make adjustments. I can tell you, you can even ask it then, okay, cool, where should I write it? What should I write to update my standards, and what do I need to implement? Those kind of things become really powerful. All right, driving into clause 9. Monitor and measure, analyze, and evaluate performance. So here, we're going to look at those quality objectives, right? We're going to look at conducting internal audits. So anybody here do their internal audits for their company? Yeah. So how's that going? It's a daunting process, right? So we're looking at how do you speed up the internal audit process and make it simpler for your team, right? So we've started to create some agents that let people just answer questions. You can say, hey, let them answer a bunch of these questions. They can type their answer in, drop in the result, and let it do the audit for them. I would love, we have a registrar in the room, and I would love at some point their take on, what if I just use AI to do my internal audit? Is that going to be a problem? Are my auditors going to accept that? So no offense to the registrars in the world, but they're going to be behind the times, right? Like, we're going to get in front of them on how we're using AI to do this. I see opportunities for what we're calling like continuous compliance. If somebody asks me to audit their system and I'm going to do it in person and I look at maybe calibration records, I'm going to look at 5 records, right? Instead, I could say, give me every calibration record you have and I'll check them all. And I'll use AI to do that. So we can feasibly do that now, and think about now instead using an agent to do that all the time. So we turn an agent on, it's looking at a folder, and you drop in new calibration records and it says good or not good. Gives you an alert if we got a problem. So I think we have some cool opportunities to start using AI. The question is, how well our auditors or customers take that? So you're going to have to do some serious validations to say, yes, this is working. So where we're doing those validations is just a ton of testing. I can tell you my team uses it to quote jobs now. That took me, look, I ran it through 100 different tests to see if it was actually quoting the numbers I wanted it to quote. But now that it does that, now that I'm comfortable with that, I'm okay with my guys sitting, yep, here's the number, here's the job we're doing, quote it. It knows our numbers. So you're able to do some validations there. It just takes time. So applications here, helping you with those KPIs, those dashboards, being able to drop data in, say, hey, generate this. If you can build tools that you can generate your data quickly, you're not having your engineers, you're not having your valuable folks spend time making another darn dashboard, right? Let AI do that. Audit finding analysis, starting to look at your old audit findings, right? Using it to dive deep for those trends on internal audit findings and recurring issues, and then that customer feedback. So yes, go ahead.
If you validate that a certain prompt is working on, like, let's say 4.0,
yep,
and then 5 drops.
Got to revalidate.
And then how do you deal with, if you're not running that agent locally, any background changes that they're doing, but they're not pushing a new version number?
So that's an excellent question. It's how often do you validate, right? So that would be part of our auditing process, is we would audit it regularly to see if it's working. I would attribute that to, I check my website once a week to make sure the contact form is working, right? Like, because if it goes down, I don't know it until it's been 3 months, and maybe it's been down for 3 months, I don't know. So that is sort of where I would be with it, is, hey, we got to check it regularly. If it's a tool that we're putting into production like that, it would be something I would be really careful with on what kind of training that it's doing. So then it's deciding where the risk is, right? Where is it appropriate to use an AI tool and where not to use one? I have a customer, that material cert analysis is a good example. We have a customer that makes submarine parts. So they're making parts for nuclear submarines, they're making reactor vessels. So they want to use the material cert tool. Not because they're not going to put eyes on that material cert, but because it takes them 3 months to actually get to the material that got in the building until they do anything with it. So they just want to check it real quick when it comes in, but they're still going to put eyes on it. So I would say I would be using AI at places where I'm a little less risky. Okay, and if it is high risk, then we have to do more validations, get more eyes on it.
Have you guys considered instead using like a static agent?
Yeah, so there are plenty out there. We've primarily focused on using the tools that we have now because we haven't picked an agent that I really love yet. That, I would say that's sort of, we're still in that testing phase.
Is there, maybe you haven't looked into it yet, but is there a way with any of the commercial companies that you can say, we're going to stick with your 2.0 update, and we need to be able to pull that locally and not run it on your servers because we validated against this model?
So ChatGPT 2 weeks ago, when 5 came out, released local models that are free that you can run on your local instance. And so those won't update because they're going to be a local model. So that would be a way to get at it. And most of what you're asking for is relatively light. You know what I mean? As long as you're doing light things that you don't need the heavy compute, you can do that locally, right? The problem is once you get to real complicated stuff, it's going to be tough to run some of those local, would be my suspicion. I can tell you these scheduling modules that I'm trying to make on helping people schedule, man, I'm really struggling because it's such a big problem, right? It's such a huge logic problem, having enough compute to do it. And so there we're taking it off-site.
Okay.
But good question. The security part has been, the biggest concern the whole way through. When we're doing internal audits, where I'm starting to see it be really valuable, and this has been a test for my team. So my team does internal audits all over the country, right? And it's one of the more boring parts of our job. So my goal is to make it easier for my team. I have struggled finding the right solution for my team that is actually a time saver, right? What I've delivered to them so far has been helping them write better, but not saving them time because my team's really good at it. And so that's a unique question of, are we solving the right problem? Right? I'm not convinced that we are. And so instead what we're working on is an alternative to that, to say, do you want an in-person audit? Because my team will come out and do an in-person audit. Or for half the price or a quarter, do you want an AI audit? And we'll have somebody peek at it at the end. So now building a tool to kind of take a different look at it. And I say we really had to focus on designing different kind of workflows and thinking way differently than like just trying to do it the same way we've been doing it and looking for some of those smaller wins because it hasn't been a fit for everything. We even tried with voice. So I had my guys doing their audits with microphones on. And so that way we had the whole transcript and we can drop that in. But it was, by the time they did all that and they cleaned it up, it wasn't saving them enough time to like deal with the hassle of dealing with the microphone and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not real sure about my customers being okay with all being recorded and stuff as we go through. So here I'd love you to dive in and we have 12 months of reject data. So if you go into that folder, you'll be able to see reject data, nonconformance data. And I did it 2 different ways. And this is where I'd like you to run it 2 different ways. So sometimes you're going to get structured data, and sometimes you're going to get unstructured data. Structured data to me is this great table. Everything's in there, nice and pretty. Unstructured data is, I got all these emails from my customers, and I don't feel like putting them all into a database. But they're all the problem emails. I just took every problem, every nonconformance, and dropped them in a giant PDF. Analyze it. And so you can start to decide what works better and how do you approach those 2 problems. So So those are in your document set. I'd like you to take a couple minutes to mess around with those and try to look for defect patterns between an unstructured data set and a structured data set. All right, so one of the tricks I use and sort of the dirty secrets about writing AI prompts is, guess what's really good at writing AI prompts? Is using the chat to help you come up with a really strong prompt to begin with. So here I told it, hey, I need to write a prompt to analyze this data set as a quality expert. Help me to develop the prompt that I need to do that. And so, boom, it helped to build that whole prompt out. All right, so you can actually start to use your AI tools to help you develop the prompt and send you in the right direction. And what I really like there is starting to look, it helps to pick up on some ideas that you might not have thought about as you're developing that, and starts to kind of optimize, and sometimes I'll use the word optimize it, right, for that result. So now I can take that and enter a new chat. And say drop in my data set and let it go at it. Have folks spent time working around other like ChatGPT and using sort of the thinking model and the non-thinking model? So that thinking model, certainly please turn that on, or you're just using old versions of ChatGPT. That's running. We're going to jump into the next one. All right, so clause 10 is really focused around improvement opportunities. So we're looking at nonconformances, diving into what those are doing, and then doing root cause analysis. This is the largest weakness, and one of the things that auditors hit on sort of the hardest is effective root cause analysis, making sure that an action plan was actually generated based on that root cause, and then making sure that what you said you were going to do, you're going to do, and that it worked. So as we use this, we start to look at that sort of, hey, we're using it to analyze where issues. So what I would like you to do is go back to that, write an AI prompt to identify root causes and potential solutions for premature CNC toolware. We kind of already went through that, so I'm not going to dive in because I have sort of a larger project I'd like you to work on, if at all possible, today, and we've got some time here. They'd like me to finish up a little after 4. It gives us half an hour to kind of mess around with it. And so what I'd like you to do is, we're working through a few things. Your assigned roles are to write some better audit findings. And if you're an auditor, you'll know that writing audit findings is one of the harder part, to write them in a way that actually meets the requirements for writing audit findings. Do a root cause analysis on that to help find a better one. Looking at some vendor documentation review. And then finally, looking back at those original issues that you talked about and said, hey, we have these issues in our company, and trying to look for opportunities to use AI to solve some of those. So as we walk through this, number 1, and these are all in your book on sort of towards the back. So we're going to look at, during a supplier audit, you discover that 15% of your purchase components were sourced from unapproved vendors, not on the approved vendor list. So you're the auditor. Please write me a finding for this audit. So what does that finding look like? Once we do that, I want to be on the other side. Well, okay, I'm the one being audited. Now help me do some root cause analysis into that. So I'd like to spend a couple minutes working on these, sort of work, if at your table or somebody beside you has the computer, work through it and start to get some direction on using AI prompting and getting some good results. Should be, which page is that? Sorry, page 16. Okay. I'm happy to send these out. So if you want to work on them externally, that's fine. If you want to mess with them here, that's fine as well. I will happily, supply a PowerPoint. So if you'd like it, everybody who has one of the things has as my card, shoot me a note. I'll happily get it your way. Our idea here is to just plant seeds for your company, right, on opportunities to use AI, get you to start thinking where we can deploy it, especially around 9001, and start using some of the tools. You can see with our tool, we're in that secure environment. So our hope here is that you see sort of that advantage where you can do that, you can get some workflows done, and see where we can help you to implement AI across the board. So feel free to stay and mess around with it. My goal, I will stay as long as you need me to help coach you through any of that. That was sort of my hope for the workshop today, is give you the opportunity to dive into those. And those are in the book. I'm going to close, if that's okay, because I know some people are kind of itching to roll. And so as we close there, I'm looking at using sort of AI and focusing on that policy first. Okay, so next slide, you'll be able to download that policy. Understanding that prompting engineers matter, and focus on starting small. This should really be a crawl, walk, run. The first question I get is, let's plug it into our ERP system and let's solve all these problems. I don't think most people are there yet. I think you need to put in let your people use it, find those small things, and get some small wins before you try to change the world at your company with AI. And so I think that needs to be the focus. So our suggestion is policy first, start small, and then scale with your team. So on that, if you scan that, you'll get a free download of a sample AI policy for your company. It helps you to put in that kind of structure so your team can all make decisions on if they want to do this or not, right? Where can you use it? Start giving them the tools. Otherwise, they're going to be sharing your data across the board, and you're going to be in big trouble. So appreciate your time. If you're good at Google, you can be good at AI. And if you're good at AI, you can redefine your industry. So my contact info is here. If you ever want to schedule something, by all means, you can schedule. We do a free half hour for people. I'm happy to look at your processes, give you some advice on where we could help. Look at how rolling out some of these tools makes sense. It's a great fit for some industries. It's not a great fit for others. We are just here to help folks really understand where AI can transform their business and get them in the pathway there. Industry 4.0 is coming. And this is the cheapest way to get into it. I'm not asking you to spend $100,000 on a robot that just helps in manufacturing. AI can help your whole business. So think about everybody in the company having access to this, in accounting, in purchasing. Everybody could get advantage out of it. And so it's a great tool to be able to use for that.